talks to end clashes that have killed dozens and displaced nearly 1 million people. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un orders officials to ramp up missile production and build more factories to meet the military's growing demand. Israel says an operative from Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps was killed in airstrikes across Lebanon, marking another violation of its ceasefire with Hezbollah. A Malaysian court finds jailed former Prime Minister Najib Razak guilty of abuse of power in the biggest trial linked to the multi-billion-dollar I-1MDB corruption scandal. And silver surges past $75 an ounce for the first time as investors rush to precious metals amid rising economic and geopolitical uncertainty. Our top story today is from Africa, where the US conducted strikes on Islamic State targets in Nigeria on Thursday. President Donald Trump announced the strikes in a Truth Social post, describing them as powerful and deadly. Last month, Trump said that Washington was ready for military action to counter the killings of Christians. And on Christmas Day, the US acted on its warning. In his Truth Social post, Trump said, and I quote, "Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more if their slaughter of Christians continues." End quote. Later, the Pentagon also released a video on social media that showed missiles being launched from a naval vessel. The US Africa Command said multiple ISIS terrorists were killed in an attack in Sokoto State, and the strikes were conducted at Nigeria's requests. The Nigerian Foreign Ministry confirmed the US strikes, describing them as precision hits on terrorist targets in the northwestern part of the country. The Nigerian government said they were cooperating with the US on security. Now, this is the first such attack by US forces under Trump. In the last few months, Trump has singled out Nigeria, claiming that Christians face an alleged existential threat that amounted to genocide. He also warned against any systematic assault on Christians in the country. In fact, back in October, the Trump administration put Nigeria on the list of countries of particular concern, citing violation of religious freedom. Trump also threatened to stop all aid to Nigeria if aid continues to allow the killing of Christians.
They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world, very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Before US struck ISIS targets in Nigeria, President Tinubu had posted a Christmas message on X, in which he vowed to protect the religious freedoms of Nigerians. Now, Nigeria is almost evenly divided between a Muslim majority north and a largely Christian south. Authorities have said that armed groups targeted both the communities. And earlier this week, an explosion ripped through a crowded mosque in Borno, killing at least 5 people. Police suspect it to be a suicide bombing attack. In fact, even suicide bombers are frequently used by Boko Haram to spread terror. Nigeria's security situation is worrisome. President Tinubu has been under fire for not being able to counter the armed groups and terrorists. It remains to be seen how the direct involvement of US forces under US President Donald Trump helps to solve Nigeria's security woes. Shifting focus to Bangladesh. Just days after the lynching of a 27-year-old Deepu Chandra Das, Bangladesh has witnessed another lynching of a Hindu man. The incident has intensified concerns over mob violence and the safety of religious minorities in the country. Late Wednesday night, a 30-year-old Hindu man was beaten to death by a group of villagers in a district 150 kilometers east of Dhaka. The victim has been identified as Amrit Mondal. According to police, Mondal was assaulted by a mob following an altercation. He was rescued in a critical condition and taken to a local hospital, where he was declared dead around early on December the 25th. Bangladeshi police say the attack stemmed from alleged extortion-related dispute. Authorities even allege that Mondal led a local group which was involved in intimidation and forced collection of money. Police say at least 2 cases, including one for murder, has been registered against him. Hours after the killing, the interim government in Dhaka described the incident as unfortunate, but insisted it was not a communally motivated attack. In a press statement, the interim administration said it strongly condemned the lynching, but accused a particular segment of attempting to protect it as communal. The government said the lynching was a result of a violent situation that arose from quote-unquote extortion and criminal activities. Even as Bangladesh denies a communal angle, it is critical to point out that 2 Hindu men have now been lynched within days. Both lynchings have taken place against the backdrop of widespread unrest across Bangladesh, following the death of controversial student leader Sharif Usman Hadi, who succumbed to gunshot injuries on December 18th. His death triggered protests, vandalism, and attacks on political and diplomatic sites in several parts of the country. Amid this escalating violence, ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has launched a sharp attack on the current ruling setup. In a Christmas address, Hasina accused the present regime of subjecting religious minorities to what she described as unspeakable torture. 2 lynchings in less than a week have raised troubling questions that go beyond individual cases. Denials and condemnations are now being closely scrutinized as Bangladesh grapples with political unrest and concerns over law and order. The safety of minorities has emerged as a key test for those in power. We now turn to Canada, where a young Indian student's dream has been brutally crushed. A 20-year-old Indian student identified as Shivank Avasthi was shot dead near the University of Toronto's Scarborough campus. Toronto police confirmed that Avasthi, a doctoral student, was found with a gunshot wound on December 23, and despite emergency response, he was pronounced dead at the scene. Police also said the suspect fled the area before officers arrived, and as of now, no arrests have been made. The killing has sent shockwaves through the Indian community in Canada and back in India. Responding to the incident, the Consulate General of India in Toronto expressed deep anguish over the tragic death. In a statement, the consulate said it is in close touch with the bereaved family and is extending all necessary assistance in coordination with the local authorities. This incident marks Toronto's 41st homicide case this year and comes just days after another Indian national was killed in Toronto. Last week, a 30-year-old Indian woman, Himanshi Khurana, was found dead inside a residence in the city. Police had issued a warrant of 32-year-old suspect on charges of first-degree murder, adding that the suspect and Khurana were in an intimate partner relationship. With 2 Indian nationals killed in Toronto within a week, members of the diaspora calling for quick justice and stronger safety measures. Over the past few years, 633 Indian students have died abroad, with Canada reporting the highest number of over 170 deaths. And at least 91 targeted attacks against Indian students studying overseas have been reported. And 30 of these incidents led to deaths. In this case again, Canada recorded the highest number of cases, reporting 27 violent attacks, including 16 fatalities. Although Canada has long been preferred destination for Indian students, recent trends have sparked fear among prospective students and families back home. Former Indian High Commissioner to Canada in a report acknowledged that many Indian students face risks of hate crimes. For many Indian students studying abroad, this comes at a heavy price: sky-high fees, mounting debt, and grueling work hours just to survive. These students contribute significantly to economies in the US and Canada, and yet their safety is not guaranteed. For now, as investigation continues, tonight a family mourns if the dream was worth the cost. And for the Indian community in Canada, fear looms amid rising hate and violence. And now to our final story. Imagine a war entering its 4th year, which is not just being fought with tanks and missiles, but also with phone calls, proposals, and carefully chosen words. That is where Russia-Ukraine conflict stands today. Today, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said he will meet with President Trump soon. He said both leaders have decided on the highest level meeting and that a lot can be decided before New Year. A day earlier, Zelensky signaled that diplomacy may be finding a narrow opening. He has described a recent conversation with senior US envoys as positive, saying that fresh ideas are emerging on how the war could eventually be brought to an end. The nearly hour-long calls took place on Thursday and involved Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, two key figures in Washington's push to broker peace in Ukraine.
Today, we spoke with representatives of the U.S. President for almost an hour. We spoke with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. It was a really good conversation, many details. There are good ideas that we discussed. There are some new ideas on how to bring the real peace closer, and it concerns formats, meetings, and, certainly, the timeline.
Zelensky said the discussion explored new formats, possible meetings, and crucially the timing needed to move closer to what he called a real peace. And then he thanked America for continuing to put pressure on Russia.
Some documents are already prepared. I can see that they are almost complete. Some documents already complete. Of course, there is still work to be done on sensitive issues, but together with the American team, we understand how to ensure this.
Meanwhile, Zelensky's rhetoric against his Russian counterpart has also sharpened. In a Christmas Eve video message, he spoke of Ukraine's unity and resilience. And then he said something that seemed like a wish for death upon his Russian counterpart, Putin. Listen in.
Today we all share one dream, and we make one wish together. May Vladimir Putin perish, each of us may think privately, but when we turn to God, of course, we ask for more. We ask for peace for Ukraine. We fight for it. And we pray for it.
Now, a few days ago, Zelensky had unveiled details of an updated 20-point peace plan, agreed by US and Ukrainian envoys during meetings in Florida. At the center of these talks is land and power. The focus is eastern Ukraine's Donbas region, which includes Donetsk and Luhansk. Russia currently controls about 75% of Donetsk and nearly all of Luhansk. Zelensky said the revised plan could allow Ukrainian troops to withdraw from parts of the east, replaced by a demilitarized zone. He also said that the new plan proposes to freeze the front lines. However, he insisted that any territory vacated by Ukrainian forces must still be policed by Ukraine. The proposal also includes security guarantees from the United States, NATO, and European partners. These guarantees would trigger a coordinated military response if Russia were to invade again. On Donetsk's future, Zelensky has suggested the creation of a free economic zone as a possible compromise. Earlier, Trump reportedly pushed Ukraine to consider ceding all of Donbas as part of a settlement. But Zelensky has so far rejected any territorial concessions, arguing that peace without strong security guarantees would only delay the next war. Moscow, meanwhile, is watching carefully. The Kremlin says it is analyzing the proposals brought back from the United States by Russian envoy. President Trump will seize it by force. As of now, the war remains unsolved. The fighting continues, but so do the talks. And somewhere between battlefield and the negotiation table, Ukraine's future and Europe's security are being quietly decided. That's all for today. Thank you for joining us. I am Gushin Galan and we'll see you right back here next week.